All right, big dog, big cheese. I think that's a pretty good nickname for you. Psychology and strongman, beautiful combination. I saw it, came across it. I was like, I got to talk to this bloke. Plus, you're northerner, so you know, it's
Best
going in.
mix.
Best mix, mate. Mate, why jump down? First of all, why go into the strongman scene, right? Yeah, you might be fucking BFG tall, but strongman is nuts, right?
uh,
Odd object, heavy as shit. But then you also have to move too. That's a big misconception about strongmen, right? It was like, oh, you're just big deadlifters, or you get underneath the yoke, or you do the log, and it's like, yeah, but you still have to be able to fucking run.
yeah, so getting into strongman was a weird one, really. I think anyone who gets into strongman, the mum hasn't given them enough fugs as a kid or something, because it is when you think about it as a hobby, it is a bit weird because you're just hurting yourself for fun. But I guess you could say that about a lot of things. For me, I just always wanted to get in gym as a young lad. Um, and it just happened to be the gym I joined when I was 13 was just riddled with strong cunts who were doing strongman. So it was MST Systems, Graham Hicks, Ryan Oldfield, Ben France, Luke Davies, Rhiannon Lovelace came down for a bit, and I was just in an environment where they were all doing well in strongman, and it looked fun. And I have told this story on a few other podcasts, but my mate Joe Sco, guy who does filming for OSG and Giants and stuff, he told me that if I started using yoke and farmers, that my calves would grow. So that kind of pushed me towards it. It wasn't fucking true. My calves have stayed the same size since I came out womb, like, but no. So that's how I got into it, and then it's just one of those things when you get good at something and you're doing well, and you've got that constant push of comps coming up and stuff. It's easy to get carried away because in comparison to sports I've tried before, so football and that, even if you are progressing, it's not numerical value. You don't have that same thing to chase. And yeah, I just let it completely take over my life really from my childhood. I wouldn't change anything, but no, yeah, like 14, 15, all I was doing was going to the gym. It's all I gave a shit about, and yeah, that's how I got into it really.
Well, I love it, man, because for blokes like us, it keeps us off the street, and for either kids that don't do well in traditional sports, right? Which, let's be honest, back home for in the UK, for example, that traditional sport is quite narrow.
Yeah,
America, you've got four or five traditional sports. In the UK, you've got what, two? Football
to
and
rugby, football.
rugby
Yeah,
football, and that's kind of it as a bloke. And then you got netball, hockey for a lady, and that's it. If you don't do well in those two things, it's over with for you. You don't play sport, don't do PE. And it's like, well, what are they going to do? How are we going to help these kids, right? So I think pushing them into a non-traditional, a little bit unorthodox, weight room. Here's an object. We're going to take it from point A to point B. Here's your body. We're going to learn how to use it, right? Even just gymnastics or something like that, right? Gymnastics is we like to see it on the telly, and look at oh fuck, the names eluded me, but we you bring a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal back from the Olympics. You're like, oh my god, this gymnast is amazing. I was like, yeah, but we don't have any gymnastic gyms.
yeah,
We don't have any proper strongman gyms with any bloody signage. It's like, well, if you know somebody, you could get in, and that's about it, mate. And I would love to see, especially back home, man. Fucking keep them off the street, keep them in an environment where you're rubbing shoulders with people that are chasing something rather than chasing complacency, because that just ends at the bottom of the bottle or up your nose.
pretty much, mate. And funnily enough, I can't speak too much on it yet, but I do have a paper that's in the process of getting published at the moment, which is um, I'm not allowed to say too much because
It's all right.
I've signed it off. But basically, what it's my idea is that so with strength athletes who were the participants in my study, they share the same traits as clinically referred addicts in all forms of addicts, right? So not just your drug addicts, but your gamblers, your internet addicts, smartphone. they all share the same trait of sensitivity to reward. So neurologically speaking, how much dopamine availability there is when something positive happens to you. And strength athletes share the same trait. And I'm convinced it'll be the same across sports and even creative arts like music, etc. So one of the paths I'm trying to lead this research down is, why don't we use this as part of a rehabilitation program, if you will. So at the moment, sports are kind of touched on and used in a almost social prescribing sort of manner. So at the moment, it's not uncommon for people who have been referred to some form of help, if you will, for addictions. They'll be 1 week picking litter off the streets, 1 week playing basketball, 1 week playing netball. And even though the principle itself is okay, because they're all different things that have shown to aid people in recovery, what I believe to be the pinnacle point is that commitment and that desire for one singular thing. So for us going to the gym, if you were to go to the gym one day, do Olympic lifting, one day do bodybuilding training, one day do CrossFit, one day do strongman, there's no structure and you're just kind of everywhere. And you won't get that same drive because you're not driving towards something. So I'm not saying that anyone who's an addict or a drug user, gambler, should go strongman, but the idea itself is it needs to be a singular thing, something to drive them, something to almost, I don't want to say obsess over, but something to get them out of bed and to help with that desire to not go back to the drugs or not go back to the drink, because you've got something else worth fighting for, if you will. You've got that self-fulfillment, improvement element that comes, especially in sport. I will be able to speak more about this in 6 months or so when the paper has been published. But yeah, basically what I found is that addicts and strength athletes share this same trait, and hopefully we can use it some way going forward.
Fascinating, man. Mate, we'll have another conversation when it comes out. That's for damn sure. Well, I mean, I would go as far to say obsess over it. You know, it becomes this. You know, let's speak for myself. It becomes this light at the end of the tunnel, right? That it doesn't matter how shit it might be now. You might have some withdrawals. You might be down in depression. You might be in a shit environment. Whatever. It becomes this light at the end of the tunnel that you can then analyze and obsess over, and just constantly be like, right, am I getting closer? Where am I going to next? What does this look like? You know, and even art, I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, like a painter, right? They could do the same thing of just obsessing over this one fucking picture. And like we could look at it from the outside, right? Man, what the fuck is this crazy cunt doing? Like this looks like nuts, but they're gonna do the same thing when we touch a barbell, right? Like it's the same thing. It's that artist in a flow state, right? And it's funny you bring that up, because as of late, as of recently, I've now been looking at the physical of like, right, we like to work out, let's use you, for example, strongman, and then an artist of, let's use a painter. They might be doing two separate things, but mentally they're doing the same thing. And I've been attacking it in my own mind that way. So it's quite ironic that we're having this conversation, mate.
Yeah, so I mean, neurologically speaking, so you touched on flow state, and that's basically just when you're so ingrained in something, and it can come in day-to-day life as well. Like you're in a flow state when you're driving, you can be in a flow state during conversation when that prefrontal cortex is switched off and you're just ingrained in the moment. And that's always kind of what you got to be, especially if you want to be an effective athlete. You want to make sure that you're enabling that flow state to happen in whatever way, because as soon as you start thinking about things too much, that's when you start making mistakes and pressure comes on, and mental blocks, etc. So yeah, it is the same principles in a way of an artist, a singer, and an athlete of any sort.
So Aristotle said that we need to chase something called eudaimonia, right? Which is happiness and fulfillment kind of combined, walking hand in hand. Would you say flow state is eudaimonia?
Technically speaking, probably not to the same degree. So flow state is, technically speaking, flow state is when you're in a position where you're kind of almost acting, I don't want to say on instincts, but you're acting autonomously. So it's an automatic process where things are just rolling. So, for example, of a deadlift, if you're in a perfect flow state, whether it's you got 80% of you 1 rep max for an AMRAP in 60 seconds. If you're in that flow state, you're not thinking this feels hard. You're not thinking, oh, it's just happening. You know what you're doing. You've done it 1,000 times before, and it's just go time. And at the end of 60 seconds, you leave. You can't remember most of the reps. It's just happened. So I think flow state is necessary for it, because anyone who's chasing ambition in your will, and anyone, especially in a sporting context, but I'd say I'd say anything fulfilling, whether it's me now writing papers rather than slinging big tin or whatever, you have to be in that state of flow. But also in a state of flow, you can be doing something that's not necessarily fulfilling or happy, like brushing your teeth, for example. Like when you brush your teeth, most of the time you're in a state of flow because you're acting autonomously. You're not really thinking about what you're doing. It just happens. Like I know I brush my teeth twice a day, but I can't tell you much more than that. I can't tell you when I last. Well, I know I did it this morning, but there's nothing going through my head. It just happens. So I wouldn't say flow state is necessarily that, but I think it is essential in the pursuit of happiness and fulfillment.
Fascinating. So what made you go down the psychology route?
Yeah, so that's everything for me just kind of happens by chance, really. So I was I never really did well at school or anything. I wasn't dumb or ridiculed for being dumb or anything like that, but I was never an academic person. And got offered a job at Shane's gym when I was about 16. So I went and did that. I was enjoying it. Great job. And I mean, I still work for Shane now, come and ask for a better boss. But it just became very monotonous. And every day was the same. 6 days a week, I think I was running the gym. And I just wanted to grow myself. I think at first, because obviously I was working for Shane, still am obviously. I felt like I needed to be chasing that, and I wanted to be, basically I wanted to be as smart and as good at coaching as Shane was. So I started buying every book that he'd recommend or somebody worth the salt would recommend, and I wasn't getting the same satisfaction as I'd like to from something like that. And I'm not sure if you've heard of Andrew Triana, the Performance Vibe, Go Super Brain now, I think he's called on Instagram. If you don't follow him, he's an absolute genius. I really recommend. And he came to our gym for a seminar. I asked him for some book recommendations, and he told me to read this book, The Brain That Changes Itself. About it's each chapter's just a different case study, if you will, of different individuals and talking about neuroplasticity, and couldn't put it down. Like it absolutely fascinated me. So from there, I wanted to know more about the brain. Like originally, I wanted to go into more neuroscience side of it. Sorry, my phone's going mental.
It's all right. I know you're a popular guy. Must be that accent
So
down south, mate. They can't leave you alone.
I wish, mate. It's just clients. I don't have friends, people.
That's why we got into strength sports. We're actually the loners.
But yeah, so then I wanted to learn more about the brain. I wanted to, like, my undergrad was psychology with neuroscience, and I wanted to just be an absolute nut with the brain. And yeah, at that point I was like thinking about going to uni, and then the council kind of made my decision for me as they shut our gym down. Lancaster City Council are pricks. So I just want to get that out there.
I don't think any counsel is a good counsel, but hey,
But yeah, so then I went to uni and I just applied the same thing that I've been doing in the gym for years, where I just grafted really hard, put the hours in. Because like I remember the first assignment grade I got back and it was bad. It was like 52% or something, and I was absolutely gutted and just kept going and just doing what I'd been doing in training for years, just working hard, putting the hours in, just being consistent. And I finished my degree with a high mark, and now obviously I'm on doing a PhD, and just things kind of fell into place for me again with the PhD. I happened to be around the right people, and things just happened. So yeah, that's how I got into psychology. It was one man recommending one book to me, and I loved it.
funny how your trajectories change, right, in life.
Well, I just can't get my head around it, because this time 5 years, I would have told you I'd have been happy working in a gym as long as I was at World's Strongest Man, and now I don't even compete anymore. I've lost about 30 kg body weight, and probably the happiest I've ever been. Really, it's mental how little moments, little things like coming to Essex University as well. It was I competed against a guy um, a couple of years prior, and he was like, "Yeah, the uni's here is quite good. I'll give you a place to stay for cheap rent." And again, just meeting one guy at a random competition, just these little
Yeah.
things just kind of fell into place for me, really. And it's yeah, ended up leading me to a place where I'm doing all right and I'm happy.
There's definitely something to be said about consistency, isn't there, mate? And I think the beauty of it is the gym has taught us that. The gym teaches you, well done, you came in 1 day a week. Yeah, no one cares, princess. Come again tomorrow. And you've got to do that for years, and it's a fucking hard slog, mate. And then eventually you look back and it's like, oh, you were at 40 kilos and now you're at 140, right? You've literally added an extra digit. Now that digit's two, and it's the constant grind and the slow evolution of a character and this physical presence, right? And I think that it bleeds over into life really, really well. And I think that's a great thing to be able to be taught at an early age. You said 13, you know?
Yeah, well, this is. I look back now and I just kind of grit my teeth a little bit, like, because when I was going to the gym, I was going every day, like, especially during my high school years. And my English teacher, she was a lovely lady, by the way. Don't get me wrong, she wasn't horrible to me or anything, but I wasn't getting my predicted grades. And she was like, "I want you to come to after school intervention classes to boost you up towards that A or B or whatever she wanted me to get." And I was just like, "No, I can't. Like, I've been at school 6 hours. I'm going home and I'm going to the gym. Like, this is what I do. I go to the gym for 4 o'clock. I'm not changing it." And she was asking me about the gym and what I did, and I told her I was competing in strongman and stuff. And she said, and she genuinely did say it with the right intentions,
Yeah.
but she said that strongman's not going to get you anywhere in life. You need this English GCSE. I was just like, no, sorry, this means more. I now look back, and again, she wasn't saying it in a malice way or anything, but she couldn't have been more fucking wrong. Like, what I learned, I mean, if I look at my life now, like, she was an English teacher. By the end of the year, I'm going to be a published author with a few studies out at the moment. Doing a PhD, all specific to strongman as well. Like, it's given me the job I've had since I was like 16. Um, she couldn't have been more wrong, because the things I learned from competing in strongman, I was never going to get from school. Because school, you're forced to do things in a certain way, and you don't ever develop that intrinsic motivation to go towards your thing. And if you're not intrinsically motivated, you're just doing things because you're fucking told to, which works all right to a degree at school because you don't want to get told off. When you're out into the real world and nobody's fucking smacking your head on the table telling you to do shit, you ain't getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think now, like, the school system, especially, like, even if it's something as strange and ridiculous as me saying strongman 10 years ago would have been, like, you've just got to encourage it, because people learn a lot more from their hobbies and their interests and going after something that they're motivated towards a hell of a lot better than, well, you have to come after school because I said so. And even if it means like a student gets a C instead of a B, like, it's so much more valuable if someone's got that unique trait and they've learned the necessities of progression through life. And yeah, no, I always think back. I think back to that quite often, that little conversation, because if I hadn't gotten into strongman, I wouldn't be at uni. I'd be working a dead end fucking job I don't want to be in. Like, yeah,
It's that curiosity piece, right? I think we're all innately born with it. I do think as humans, we're innately curious of like what's on the other side of that river, and what can I do? You know, dumb shit like that. But I think
yeah.
we're taught to stay within the box. You know, we're taught to stay within the lines of like, yes, sir, no, sir, three bags full, sir, which makes a fantastic employee, which makes a great soldier, right? But what about people that don't want to do those two things?
I wouldn't even. I mean, I wouldn't even agree that it makes a great employee, to be honest, because, like, I again, I don't really want to target the school system far too much here, but why would you want a group of people who, like, who needs a C in physics? Like, genuinely, I look back, like, I learned all this shite about maths, physics, chemistry. It's all right to give people a general consensus of this is where you could go, but, like, the things I think back at school, like, I had a few good mates who academically weren't the brightest, and they were made to feel like shite because of it. But you'd see
Yeah.
what they were doing on weekends. They were taking engines apart and shit. Like, people with real talent, real skills and stuff. And we're all confined to these expectations of do X, Y, and Z. And yeah, no, it's I, th- I th- yeah, I just think individuality should be encouraged a lot more than it is.
I completely agree, mate. And I'm on that camp. You know, I see what it's like mid 20s, 30, mid 30s and onwards, right? So people have gone through the academic system, they've usually got themselves a degree, high five, you know, you've got yourself a post-grad job and you've stuck in it for at least 5 years, right? And I'll see what it's like socially. And they're the most awkward cunts possible. Because if it's not a like transactional interaction, right? Or it's not between these very, very slim lines. They don't know what to do, man. And I'm like, what is what is wrong with you people? Like, just talk to somebody next to you. You know, they look different, they smell different. They're not wearing a fucking blazer and a shirt and a tie. You know, it's like just figure it out, will you? Like they're like, oh, coach, what do I do? I was like, I don't know. Fucking talk to them. Like I see it socially, right? And I don't know, like I'm not a sociologist, right? But it's just you see it in front of your eyes often enough, you think, huh, there's a bit of a trend here, you know. And I think I don't want to use the term dangerous, but I think it's definitely something we need to be aware of, you know, of like there's multiple we have multiple facets to us. We can do different shit, right? And we don't have to do it one way. We can do it multiple
Yeah.
different ways. We can go do different shit. And I'm fascinated by what can we teach kids by moving around? How can we teach maths in a game on the playground, for example?
Well, they do. I can't remember what country it is off the top of my head, but I'm pretty one of the Scandinavian countries. That's what they do.
Hmm.
Um, to have a Sweden or Finland, one of the Scandinavian countries. That is effectively their principle. We teach with play, um, and the results they get from it. And I think it is Finland, because Finland's the happiest country. Um, but yeah, that is one of the Scandinavian countries for sure. That is how that's how they teach. They do it with play as much as possible. I've got to find out who it is now. Which country teach? It's going to play on my mind too much. Teaches
Up to a
through.
fault, man.
Unless I've just made, yeah, no, it is Finland, and they've got the shortest school hours as well, and they encourage creative play.
Don't they also do a 4-day work week? Or am I just pulling this out my ass?
No, they, I believe they do. Yeah.
Being curious, because I think it sparks creativity, and then people will end up doing it on their own. They're like, oh, I wonder about this. I was like, but I have all this free time. What am I going to do with it? Oh, probably going to go research about this thing that I'm interested in. It's like, yes, that's the fucking nature of human beings, rather than like, oh, bitch, sit down and fucking stay there for 8 hours. I was like, cool. Now everything I'm thinking about is getting out of this chair, out of this room, and fucking giving you the middle finger. It's like we're strange creatures, man. We're irrational at the best of times. And if somebody's saying do this because I said so, I don't know about you, mate, but my first thought is go fuck yourself.
No,
Maybe that's a northerner.
Yeah, to be fair, like I'm blessed now. Like, I've definitely had jobs I hate, but with the coaching side, I literally work on my own timetable alongside the clients, obviously. Teaching, I am obviously given the hours to do, but again with the PhD as well, like if I need a day off or if I need a few hours off or I wake up in the morning, I feel a bit fucking shagged. Like I've got the complete autonomy of being like, right, I'll tell you what, I'll have the morning off and I'll get things finished. And if I have to work a bit later, but again, I can't really relate because I'm in a great position where I do work 7 days a week, but it's not work. Like everything I do is just something I fully love, and to be 24 and in that position, like I fucking hope I don't fuck it up. Really, it's the only thing I can think. But no, like the worst job I had was at a fucking co-op, and you just everything about it was a farce from the way things were. Like I don't know if because I saw something on Facebook the other day. It was one of these posts about don't be a dick basically, and it was saying how if you see someone stealing from a shop and they're stealing sanitary products or baby food or whatever to keep your mouth shut, and it's please don't, because if people are stealing these things, the majority of the reason why they're doing it is they're going to sell it on so they can spend that money on whatever they want. But also, like where I worked, at least at the co-op, whenever there was shoplifting, basically the amount the shop lost, people lost in their overtime hours. So the contracts themselves were like really short, like 16 hours. So if you were scheduled to work 30 hours that week and 80 quid's worth of stock got stolen, like loads of the staff would lose like 4 hours work. And then you'd be understaffed and then more things would get nicked. And it was, yeah, no, I hated that job. It was just a farce.
Bastards.
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea how I managed to bring in my job at the co-op, but there we go.
Right.
A little bit of...
We all have done shit we don't like, mate, for those fucking beautiful pounds that come with it. And you think, is this bloody worth it? Good question. Mate, I got 3 questions.
Wait.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Tell you what, I got asked this on another podcast and I couldn't think of an answer then. I will try and give you one. It's not advice, but I think the closest thing I can come to it is from both sides of my parents. So my mum and my dad, they both did what they loved for work. My dad's got his own clothes shop, absolutely loves it. And my mum, she could have got a higher paying job. She could have got she's an educated woman. She could have gone for the bigger money, but she works as a lecturer in a disabled college, and she just loves her job. And when I was younger, my mum was skin, and I'd be thinking, well, why don't you just get a better job? Like, why don't you just go for more money? But I look back now, I think that has shown me the value, because we're not on the earth for a long time. Without getting too philosophical, like, we've all got finite time. Some ends a lot shorter than others, and you never know. Like, I don't want to look at my life and think, wish I hadn't spent 5 years of my life fucking doing this just because it paid a little bit more money. So growing up watching them, also my granddad as well, he's probably the most stubborn, most determined man you'll ever come across, and his life story in itself was just filled with life lessons, if you will. Like, it took himself from literal rags to doing quite well for himself. So yeah, I know it's not advice, but it kind of is in a way, because they practice what they preached, if you will. So I'd say probably that for me.
What's the worst?
Worst piece of advice? Fucking hell. Along the lines of, you can stay out for another drink, she won't mind. That's that sort of mentality. It's all right, do this, nobody will notice.
Next thing you know, it's 2 weeks later, you're in Amsterdam, nobody's speaking English. What's going on?
You're having to pick someone's jaw up as it's left the fucking country.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, you get those little blotches of memory coming back. Whew. No, thank you. Why am I on a train? What's going on? Why am I not wearing pants? And why have I got a pineapple next to me? But hey, don't ask questions. What are the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
3 words I'd tell my younger self. Not much you can get in 3 words, really. Younger me. See, younger me was all right. He didn't too. I'd probably tell him to grow a set of balls. Just have a bit more assertiveness to him. Don't be afraid of other people's perceptions, or because I think, especially younger, a lot of the things that I regret now I'm older just comes from false perceptions of how people will react to me. And going back, if I could change anything, it'd be that. Just like, because I know it's cliche and you hear it on every YouTube inspirational video you hear, but like, nobody gives that much of a shit. Like, the things you're most afraid of, there's literally nothing to be afraid of. Like, and I think especially I did when I was a kid, like, I spent so long worrying about how people might react to what I said, or what was going on, and they'd take the piss, they'd ridicule and make the situation worse. But growing up, I realized that's just not the case. Like, I think I think that's probably what held me back the most from a young age, is just not having the confidence or the assertiveness in some cases to just, be it stand up for myself, or say what needs to be said, or anything like that. I think that's probably what I try and encourage out of younger me in 3 words. So yeah, just get your balls up.
Get your balls up.
That's 4 words, but we can abbreviate the "your" and the balls.
Don't take it out of context.